has a coalition airstrike in Syria killed a prominent senior leader of the Islamic State. Lesotho's trade and industry minister discusses AGOA's impact in the southern African country. And Zambia adventure tourism provides thrill seekers with an adrenaline rush. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Tonight, there are conflicting reports on exactly who is responsible for an airstrike that killed a prominent senior leader and spokesman of the Islamic State. Russian Defense Ministry officials on Wednesday said it was their airstrikes in Syria that killed Abu Muhammad al-Adnani. Russia says he was killed in a strike carried by Su-34 bomber in Aleppo province. However, on Tuesday, the U.S. Defense Department said a coalition airstrike targeted al-Adnani in northern Syria, but it stopped short of saying he was dead. The Islamic State announced al-Adnani's death Tuesday, saying only that he was killed while surveying the operations to repel the military campaigns against Aleppo. Adnani was a prominent member of the al-Qaeda terror network before aligning himself with Islamic State, where he was considered second in rank to the group's leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. The United Nations, which has Adnani on its list of suspected terrorists subject to financial sanctions, has described him as the leader of Islamic State in Syria and chief of its external operations. The U.S. State Department has also offered $5 million reward for information leading to Adnani's capture. Now, for more clarification on the death of Abu Muhammad al-Adnani, let's go to the Pentagon, where VOA's Calabab is standing by. Hello, Cala.
Hi, Vincent.
Now, it looks like, here's Russia saying it was their strike. The U.S. says they're the ones who struck. Is there some sort of confusion here?
Well, there's not any confusion here at the Pentagon. In fact, a senior defense official just told me that this is just another attempt by Russia at disinformation and trying to muddle the communication space. Another official had told one of my colleagues that this Russian claim is garbage. There's a running joke email around here at the Pentagon, I was told by another official, saying, well, the United States would actually welcome Russia using precision munitions. As you may know, Russia has been there have been claims that Russia frequently uses imprecise bombing that kills a lot of civilians rather than hitting their targets. So the United States, while they have not said for sure that al-Adnani is dead, they are certain about this airstrike. In fact, a senior defense official told me that he saw the footage, that the United States had been watching al-Adnani for some time, that he was in a vehicle, and they took the strike, and the vehicle is destroyed. So they're still trying to get confirmation of his death, but they said the strike was very successful and that they definitely were the ones that hit al-Adnani in this Washira al-Bab area in Aleppo province.
Now, how significant is the killing of al-Adnani?
This is very significant. You were stating all of the things that he's been a part of earlier in this piece. And let me go further to say, when you say the chief of external operations, what does that mean? He is in charge of inspiring these attacks in Paris, in Brussels, all over the world. And these attacks have killed probably 1,800 people, killed or wounded 1,800 people. This is a guy that wanted the Islamic State to have a presence in terrorizing the West. And now that he is gone, that leaves a huge hole in the Islamic State. And in addition, just in Syria, he was also part of recruiting the foreign fighters inside Syria. So this is going to be a problem inside Syria as well for the terror group.
Now, Carla, besides this kind of targeted strikes, how else is the U.S. involved in Syria in the fight against ISIS?
Well, the United States continues to be actively engaged in airstrikes. Just today, I think there were 6 in the Manbij area, where Turkey has also helped fight ISIS. And the Kurds have also played a role in that area as well, which has caused some tensions, as I'm sure you may have heard, between the Turks and the Kurds. The Turks want to take care of the border, and the Kurds want to help as well, but then the Turks have warned them to stay on the other side of the Euphrates River. It's been a source of tension. The United States has been trying to work this out. In addition, the United States has been in Syria, had about 300 U.S. service members in there training some of these Syrian rebels to fight the Islamic State. This has caused several issues with Russia. In fact, one time, just a couple months ago, Russia had bombed an area where U.S. service members were, and that caused an issue there. But they're very active in this fight against Islamic State, about 20% reduction of territory in Syria.
Carla, thank you very much for excellent reporting. That's VOA's Calabab reporting live via Skype from the Pentagon. Now, as the European migrant crisis continues, Pope Francis on Wednesday has given himself direct charge of migration issues, continuing a reform push he promised when elected more than 3 years ago. The leader of the Roman Catholic Church has often defended refugees and urged Catholic parishes in Europe to host them, but with limited success. His announcement comes as rescue operations continue to save thousands of people from drowning in the Mediterranean Sea. Hundreds of people arrive in Sicily after being rescued at sea. Some 3,000 people were saved on Tuesday, the Italian Coast Guard said. Together with Monday's rescues, that brings the number to around 10,000 people in just 2 days. The sharp increase of refugees arriving in Italy is in part because of favorable weather conditions. This year, about 105,000 people have reached Italy by boat. Nearly 3,000 people have died. Many migrants crossing the Mediterranean to Italy leave from Libya. This group wasn't so fortunate. Libyan security forces captured about 170 people in a desert south of Misrata late on Tuesday. All of these people come from Africa's far western and eastern coasts and say they are fleeing poverty and violence.
The majority of the nationalities lately are coming from Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Nigeria, Mali, Somalia, Conakry, countries that are far from us and ones that we don't share a border. This is what's surprising. Where are the border police of Sudan and Chad and Nigeria and Algeria?
Human traffickers have taken advantage of the chaos created by Libya's uprising in 2011, which allowed both smuggling routes and militant groups to flourish. Libyan Coast Guard or naval vessels sometimes stop boats before they reach international waters and return migrants to Libya. The European Union is preparing to train Libyan Coast Guards in an attempt to help stem the flow of the crossings. Irish rock star Bono, an ambassador for the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, is pledging to help relieve the humanitarian crisis in Nigeria. After an invitation from Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest man, Bono visited a camp of 2.3 million displaced people in the northeastern part of the country, which has been severely hit by the Boko Haram insurgency. Here's Faith Lapidus.
Life is hard enough for adults living in these camps for the internally displaced in Nigeria. For children, the conditions are far more dangerous and life-threatening. At a press conference in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, human rights activist and rock singer Bono shared some horrifying statistics.
We know there's 50,000 kids going to die before the end of the year according to the UN, if they don't receive, I think they're looking for 300. We've only got $100 million in response so far. So already the resources are just only a fraction of what they need to be.
Though the military here, the Nigerian military, have made progress in pushing back Boko Haram, there are no homes for these displaced persons to go back to, where their towns are gone, their villages are gone, they're razed. You know this. I didn't.
Nigerian businessman Aliko Dangote says the global partnership is needed to boost the domestic relief efforts carried out by his foundation.
We have actually spent over 4.5 billion naira, and we'll continue to spend until the end of the, program.
Bono has pledged to use his influence to raise relief funds and return to the region with help. But time is short and the need great. For writer Faisal Masri, I'm Faith Lapidus, VOA News.
Well, immigration is a big issue in the 2016 presidential campaign. But there are stark contrasts between the policies of Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton and Republican nominee Donald Trump. Lately, Trump has been softening his stance and is expected to solidify what that means in what's being called a major immigration speech on Wednesday. VOA's Caroline Prisuti looks at how politics and policy drive each other.
Immigration, an issue the Republican presidential nominee addresses head-on.
We're going to build a great wall on the border.
From the day Donald Trump announced his candidacy, he proposed building a wall between Mexico and the U.S. He says he will enforce visa expiration dates and offer no citizenship for illegal immigrants. He plans to remove the country's 11 million undocumented immigrants from public assistance and deport the violent ones.
On day one, I'm going to begin swiftly removing criminal, illegal immigrants from this country.
Hillary Clinton also would deport violent criminals. Her immigration policy mirrors Barack Obama's, but goes even further. She says during her first 100 days in office, she would offer undocumented immigrants a path to citizenship.
I believe that when we have millions of hardworking immigrants contributing to our economy, it would be self-defeating and inhumane to try to kick them out.
Pew Research shows 70% of voters say immigration is an important issue in this election. Why? Some analysts say it's because of the early Trump Mexican wall comment. Others say the U.S. economy is stagnant, and white blue-collar workers are afraid of losing their jobs to immigrants.
We're the ones that build your home!
Analysts say Clinton's immigration plan appeals to liberal and moderate Democrats, and even some moderate Republicans. So recently, Trump has softened his stance, called pivoting in political lingo, to maintain those moderate Republicans. He originally wanted to deport all undocumented immigrants, now just criminals.
So I'm Professor Leogrand.
William Leogrand teaches a class called Political Conflict at American University. He says the pivot is risky.
Now he looks more like an ordinary politician, trimming his policy position for political gain rather than being the straight-shooting, I'm going to tell it like it is, populist that won him the nomination in the first place.
Leogrand says the Trump campaign needs to get the wording right to appeal to Hispanic voters, too, because less than 30% of the Latino vote went to the Republican presidential nominee in 2012. Caroline Prisuti, VOA News, Washington.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Coming up, AGOA's impact on Lesotho. Stay with us.
This is Greenbeat for a healthier planet.
It's called the Ark, and while it may be curvy like a boat, this house is built to ride lightly on the Earth. It's highly energy efficient, made of low impact and recycled materials. Project manager David Richards says even the roof is green.
So we have a cedar roof where we have water that goes onto the roof, comes down into the pots, keeps everything alive and well.
Inside, the Ark is so energy efficient, much of the heat comes just from human activity. The modular design allows for easy construction, but the oval shapes require many fixtures to be reimagined.
We've tried to be very clever with the curvature of the building.
Fit with triple glazed windows and fabric insulated walls, Ark homes can save significant amounts on utility bills. Best of all, they can be purchased online and shipped anywhere in the world. For Greenbeat, I'm Doug Bernard.
Welcome back. In business news, Nigeria has officially slipped into a recession as the Statistics Office announced a further contraction in the second quarter of the year. For the details, Africa 54 business correspondent Jill Malandrina joins us live from New York. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Vincent. So Nigeria's GDP contracted by 2.1% and inflation accelerated for the 9th consecutive month in July to 17.1%. That's up about 0.6 since the last reading and the highest rate since October 2015. Nigeria suffered a revenue squeeze after oil prices slumped by half since mid-2014, and crude exports fell by over 20% in the second quarter, compounded by militants in the Niger River Delta that blew up pipelines and reduced output.
Now, we know that the Naira has been plunging for the last few months. This obviously had an impact, right?
Right, that's right. This was exacerbated by the Central Bank of Nigeria's currency peg that led to lack of dollars in the economy, which hurt foreign investment and liquidity conditions. The Naira remained at the record low of $4.18 per dollar, which it hit on Tuesday on the black market. The slump in oil, 70% of Nigeria's revenue, as well as the shortages of foreign currency and power, could cause the economy to shrink 1.8% this year. Now, that's according to the International Monetary Fund. That would be Nigeria's first full-year contraction since 1991. In an interesting twist, President Buhari was partially in power when Nigeria faced a prolonged recession from 1982 to 1984. He served during 1983 to 1985.
Now, ideally, there will be natural fluctuations between growth and contraction in the economy. What are the near-term expectations for Nigeria to get out of a recession and then back into the expansion phase?
Well, Nigeria's government expects its economy to perform better in the second half of the year. That's according to the vice president's office. It said growth rates are likely to improve in spending on projects, and the results will start to yield. In addition, if it can be believed, the Niger Delta Avengers, the group claiming responsibility for most of the attacks in the last few months, said on Monday it had ceased hostilities, although there are splinter groups also claiming responsibility as recent as Tuesday. But here's my concern. Nigeria's non-oil sector also declined by nearly 40 basis points, and that suggests that the country's problems are bigger than oil. Stabilizing the Naira and removing and relaxing import bans and replacing them with tariffs would help reduce product prices. This puts more money in consumers' pockets, which encourages spending, and that's what helps any economy grow.
Jill, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is viewers Africa 54 business correspondent Jill Malandrino reporting live from New York. Now, the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, is a trade mechanism designed by the U.S. government to encourage U.S.-Africa trade. For a country to qualify to participate, it must demonstrate progress in political and economic reforms. Lesotho, a beneficiary of the AGOA, is among the countries whose AGOA eligibility is currently under review. Journalist Billy Ntaute, a Lesotho native and a Mandela Washington Fellow, spoke with the nation's Trade and Industry Minister, Joshua Setipa, about AGOA's impact in Lesotho.
As you know, under the new AGOA legislation, there are annual eligibility reviews whereby the U.S. administration, together with Congress, considers the continued eligibility of every beneficiary of AGOA based on a set of preconditions that were set. So we thought it would be appropriate and timely for us to come to Washington and discuss our performance under AGOA as Lesotho, discuss the way forward. How do we see the medium to long-term future of our trade relations with the U.S. within the context of AGOA, even beyond AGOA, because as you know, the current phase of AGOA expires in 9 years.
What has so far been the take-home for a mere Mosotho man or woman on the streets of Maseru since Lesotho has been eligible for AGOA? 4
years after AGOA came into effect, our exports had grown considerably by volume and by value. We currently have around 44,000 people in the apparel sector in Lesotho. And out of that 44,000, 32,000 are directly related to AGOA exports. That means the 32,000 people that I talk about make clothes that are destined for the U.S. market. So it is a big contribution. And then related to that are all the support industries that support this, that support the factories, that support the production. We're talking transportation, we're talking packaging. And that to that add an additional, I would say, 20 or 25,000 more people that are also benefiting from AGOA in the secondary stage. So in terms of transforming the economy, it is a major it makes a major contribution to the economy. It provides an exceedingly higher level of revenue for the government in terms of taxes. It also provides livelihood for the 32,000 people which each one of them supports on average 6 people. Yes. So it is a very significant, it makes a very significant contribution to the economy.
What is the ministry doing back in Lesotho to diversify your products? Because you only talked about apparels, but what other products are you supplying to U.S. markets?
We began in 2012 to begin to consider which other sectors can we use the experience and the technical know-how that we have built up making in the apparel sector for other sectors. And we started with automotive components. We have, since 2013, been producing car leather seats. We started with car leather seats, and now we have moved to harnessing, and then we hope to also get into other parts, door panels and all that. And these we are doing with U.S. investment, in particular with a U.S. company called Johnson Controls, which is a major global automotive supplier, not just in the U.S. but also globally. So that is one effort we have made to use AGOA to diversify. We still see, as you know, there's still potential in terms of other sectors. Agriculture is another area where we're looking at ways to bring secure investments that will allow us to be able to export into the U.S. market.
Now, don't forget to watch part 2 of our Billy Ntaute's interview with the Lesotho's Minister of Trade and Industry. Now, the Parliament of the breakaway Republic of Somaliland this month approved a draft of a $442 million deal to upgrade the port of Berbera. The plan promises to transform the ancient trading post and boost the region's economy. But some worry local fishermen will be left behind. Jason Patton-Kin reports.
This ancient port on the Gulf of Aden may be about to undergo the largest change in its long history. Somaliland is in final negotiations with DP World, the Dubai port company, to revamp the port of Berbera. If realized, the 30-year project would transform Berbera into a major player among lucrative Red Sea shipping routes. The physical port would nearly triple in size. Berbera's yearly capacity could grow from just 60,000 containers to over 1 million. The government says the upgraded port would give competition to nearby Djibouti.
Berbera port is strategically located to serve not only Somaliland and Somalia, but East Africa as a whole. But at the present time, it's not equipped to serve beyond Somaliland. And the purpose of this deal is to expand the port so that we'll be able to serve not only Somaliland and Somalia, but also Ethiopia and South Sudan and the rest of the landlocked African countries in the hinterland.
The current port was built more than 30 years ago with assistance from Russia and the U.S. But traders and fishermen have used Berbera for millennia. Mohammed Saeed has worked here for 18 years.
If DP World is coming to the port, we are expecting that the fishermen can get a lot of opportunities, such as improvement of infrastructure, training, equipment, boats, all those things from DP World.
But there are doubts as well, even from those who support the DP World deal, like the head of an organization that promotes small fishermen.
They say there are many people who are working in the jetty now, in the harbor, in the big harbor. And if DP World come, they say it might computerize, it may change the way people are working now. So many people may lose their jobs. So instead of getting more jobs, they have the thinking that many people may lose their work, their jobs now.
The opposition says the ruling party pushed the deal through without consulting locals. Resolving these tensions may decide whether the new port succeeds or sinks. Jason Patinkin for VOA News, Berbera, Somaliland.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, Zambia becomes a hot destination for tourists seeking an adrenaline rush. We'll be right back.
Kasali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Africa is establishing itself as a hot destination for people who want to feel an adrenaline rush. Now, adventure tourism is bringing thousands of visitors to Zambia every year, where people can do everything from rafting the Zambezi River to bungee jumping at Victoria Falls. Other activities at the bridge include a 240-meter zip line from one end of the gorge to the bridge. For tourists who are afraid of heights, there is whitewater rafting down the Zambezi River. The Zambezi's rapids are considered by many experts to be the most extreme in the world. Victoria Falls is also a gateway to wildlife viewing in reserves and parks in that area. Of course, not everyone is looking for a wild adrenaline kick. You're watching a game of No Falls volleyball. It's an exercise class designed specifically for seniors in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. The game is a modified form of beach volleyball, but with seats, a bigger ball, lower net, and referee. It's intended for seniors trying to regain their strength in a safe environment. To ensure players don't get injured or too carried away, there are penalties for those who reach too far or get out of their chairs. In addition to helping seniors get in shape, the classes help concentration and reduces loneliness. Well, and finally, art can be where you least expect, even the ground you're walking on. Artist and fashion designer Emma Franz Raff has discovered Berlin's cast iron manhole covers make attractive prints on fabrics, including clothes and bags. Every manhole cover has its own design, logo, and artwork on it. She applies paint directly to the raised surfaces of drains or manhole, using them as molds or as letterpress. Her inks are biodegradable, as are her fabrics, so they don't harm the environment. She says her work explores the relationship of materials, especially their opposites and contrasts. And that is what is trending today. Well, and that's our show for today. Now be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa. That's between 0300 and 0600 UTC Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching from all of us here in Washington. Have a good night.
Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords, where we teach you about words in the news. Here is a word that has to do with ships, the sea, and often the military.
Maritime.
The U.S. Defense Secretary will travel from Hawaii to Japan, which has its own maritime dispute with Beijing.
The word maritime has a connection to the seas or oceans. In our story, the maritime dispute is about the argument between Japan and China over control of the Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea.
You will also hear maritime used in business stories about shipping and transportation on the water.
Now, when you hear the word maritime,
your American English will be good enough to know what this news word means.